Hey, hello, how are you?
Sounds like that.
Look, I got another bald guy. Welcome to the Super Bowl edition of the Rational Mail 101. I do not have Pat Campbell with me today. Pat is still recovering from brain surgery, so I think we're going to give him probably at least another 2 or 3 weeks off. So that's just the way it works. I'm getting some feedback from you, Rich. Just
Hold
a
on a sec.
touch. Yeah.
I don't know where that would be coming from. Hold on, let me just mute myself.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. Okay, much better, much better. So today, as always, I want to get into some topics here, but I have with me Rich Cooper. Also, Ryan Stone is supposed to join us at some point today, as soon as he gets back from the grocery store or wherever he's at. So we're going to play kind of fast and loose here today. The topic that I've chosen today is called Appeals to Reason. And if you've read my I think it's my third book, it's either the third or the second book, I wrote an essay there called Appeals to Reason. And there's a lot going on, I think, at least in the manosphere, or at least in the circles that I run in right now. There's a few stories that I wanted to touch on. The reason I'm talking about this today, however, is because I just sort of had the idea of men appealing to women's reason sort of refreshed for me with a lot of I guess new information that has been made available to me, as well as John from Modern Life Dating, and we'll get into that a little bit too. But in addition to that, I also want to get into what has happened with Amber Heard and Johnny Depp. Now that we know the truth has come out, it's interesting. You wait long enough, and the truth comes out in just like little bits, little chunks here.
How's my audio, by the way?
Oh, you're good. You're
Is that
good.
better?
You're good. Yeah.
A little story about the truth. So
Mhm.
in the very first lawsuit that I had in my corporation in the early 2000s, my lawyer said to me at the time, he goes, when it comes to these sorts of conflicts, the truth will eventually reveal itself to you during the course of this investigation or the course of the case. And he's always been right. Always been right. At least the last few times that I've been aware of it anyway. So yeah, it's an excellent observation because it always comes out.
Yeah. And a lot of people, and I'm not going to go into any details about, I'm pretty sure most of my listeners and most of my readers as well understand what the situation was in June of 2019. And a lot of people hit me up and they say, well, why aren't you defending yourself? Why aren't you? And I have actually. We did a show on here where we dedicated it to just that. So if you're wondering what the ins and outs are of that whole thing, we've actually covered that before. And that was pretty much all I want to say about that. Simply because the truth will out. And a lot of people were asking me back in June, like, why aren't you defending yourself? Why aren't you coming out with with something like a video or a blog post or something like that? And I'm like, because I don't really need to. Primarily because I felt very confident, and I was actually right about this, that sooner or later the truth will out. And that's really what happened. And the truth is still coming out. And I can't claim responsibility for that quote. My wife is the one who actually said, the truth comes out in little chunks. Just a little bit here, a little bit there. And after a while, the whole story makes itself manifest to you. So really, that's kind of what's happening right now. A lot of my suspicions and a lot of the things that I was talking about, well, certainly privately with you guys, but that my, the suspicions that I had and me sort of piecing together pieces of the puzzle, we're beginning to get a more clear picture of this. So a lot of people are wondering what I'm referring to, and I'm referring to some of this new information that's come out about DDJ. And if you don't know who this guy is, his real name is Bobby Lewis. I think that's not a secret anymore. I'm not going to dox him. I'm not going to put out anything that I know that isn't already public knowledge. So that's the first thing. Second thing is I was made privy to some conversations, and I'm not going to publish those. I'm not going to put those on the screen here or anything like that. I'm just going to say that this is where the inspiration for this came from, because I was looking through some of these conversations, and it struck me that this guy is making appeals to reason, just like most blue pill men are, wont to do at some point in their lives. Particularly intelligent guys who tend to overthink things, or guys who tend to try to rationalize, or I don't say rationalize, but use logic to sort of try to figure out why it is that women treat them the way that they do. And I'm really, I think a lot of the red pill was almost inspired by this, or at least the desire to have more actionable information, right? More understanding of intersexual dynamics. And as a result of that, we want to say, okay, well, we'd love to put together a book, right? I mean, Dr. Sean Smith's got Tactical Guide to Women. We got the Rational Male. We've got, any number of other books that are out there that are just attempting to explain in some way, to, try to make, at least build a framework. I know Dr. Sean Smith calls it a framework, really, to understand intersexual dynamics. And I think that where we're at right now, in the manosphere, and just sort of as a globalized, consortium of men coming together and talking about these things, I think we have more information now than we have ever had before. Yeah, I was going to say, Amber Heard is definitely a sociopath, more like a borderline personality disordered woman. And we're going to get to that here in a little bit, because it sort of dovetails in very nicely to what I wanted to talk about today. The first thing is that when guys don't understand women, they tend to resort to, oh, here's Ryan. Hey, Ryan's with us today. Sooner or later, he's going to show up. There we go.
There you go. Now you got the 3 R's.
There you go.
We says in private chat.
Now Ryan is in. Now Ryan is in. Yeah, I know. So my essay on appeals to reason was really inspired by a lot of the sort of beta male want for accurate information. They want to understand, like, how to solve their reproductive problem. I've said this 100 different times, is that men are deductive problem solvers. And we're natural idealists. Oh, I lost Ryan. Okay. Well, okay, Ryan, come back when you're ready. We're natural problem solvers. We're deductive problem solvers, but we're natural problem solvers. And I think that I think it was Vox Day who was saying that the more intelligent a guy is, the harder he has, I think, with social intelligence and social understanding. And part of that, of course, is relating to women and understanding sort of the nature of women. The first part of what I wanted to get into here today, in fact, I took a lot of notes about this morning because I wanted to make sure that I'm on there. The first thing I think that a lot of blue pill guys do is they have an expectation of rationality in women. I think that the blue pill and pretty much society in general, whatever you want to call it, westernized society, sort of paints this picture of women as being equally rational or equally reasonable as men are. And I think you and I have talked about this before, where I always sort of come back to blank slate equalism. And this is, I don't think that a lot of people really realize just how committed they are to the idea of the blank slate. Like, if I bring up the blank slate and I say, look, all right, go read Dr. Steven Pinker's book. It's called The Blank Slate, the Modern Denial of Human Nature. And he goes into great detail and all, statistically, research wise, and just like hypothetically, about how the blank slate, or the idea of the blank slate, is no longer an accurate estimate of what human nature really is. It would be nice if it could be that way. And I'm gonna sort of upset the apple cart here a little bit later on, but it would be nice if we could all just pretend that we're equals. When the feminists came out, the more militant feminists came out conveniently right after the sexual revolution, that was one of the key elements of their ideological agenda, which is, we're all equal. Feminism was supposed to be, the cover story for feminism was always a quest for equality between the sexes. We want gender you'll still hear that today. You'll hear gender parity all over the place. We want gender parity. Or I know that the president of the Manosphere decided that he wanted to go on with Piers Morgan the other day. Yeah. And he got really deflated when Piers Morgan said this. He says, I am a feminist. And I think that Anthony probably thought that he was going to have some sort of support or some sort of backup in the form of Piers Anthony, because Piers Anthony has been on record and he's taken feminists to task in the past. But the first thing out of his mouth was, I am a feminist. And I believe that, feminism is just about equality, and that equality, the idea of the equality, is something that is akin to the blank slate. We are always present, and this isn't just like gender wise as well. I mean, this is also along racial lines. It's also along other, I guess you could probably throw it out there for any number of reasons, but people want to, it's like an Enlightenment era idea that we're all created equal. I mean, you go back to the Constitution, that all men are inherently born equal. And I think that a lot of that is, first of all, I don't believe in equality. I think I should probably say that right now. And it's not that I don't think we should strive to be more equal or to have that parity. I think that the idea of equality is flawed. It's flawed because
flawed in the version that they try to sell you on.
Exactly. Yeah. Flawed in the way that we pretend that everybody should just be on the same footing, or that we're born on the same footing, or that we have, pretty much it denies talents. Really, it kind of comes back to socialism and communism and all that other good, Marxism, I guess. But I don't think that a lot of people who would otherwise say, I don't believe in the blank slate, like they would disagree with the blank slate, but they don't realize that blank slate ideals, blank slate, what I call blank slate equalism, is part of their fundamental way of thinking about things. So when they get into a relationship with a woman, or they try to form some sort of, you get from point A to point B with respect to intimacy, you've got the beta male blue pill guy who really wants to solve his reproductive problem. So what does he do? Well, he tries to deductively solve that problem. That's what men do. We're deductive problem solvers. So we say, well, for me to solve this problem, I've got to go and I've got to ask women what it is that they want. And that's a very common, hey, Ryan, are you there, Ryan? Can you say something real quick? I don't hear you yet.
I can hear you.
Oh, there you are. Okay, now I got your audio. Okay, cool.
I didn't want to interrupt. You're on a roll. I'm liking it.
Yeah, I know. That's my show. But I was just going to say is that the blank slate is something that is, I think, inherent in a lot of people's thinking. Like when I talk to women, particularly conservative women, who say, well, I don't identify as a feminist. Or I think it was Milo Yiannopoulos way back in 2015 or 2016. Part of his anti-feminist rhetoric was how only like 12% of women in the UK actually identify as a feminist. And I'm like, to identify as a feminist today is virtually meaningless right now. Because if you were born after 1965, let's just say, like any time after the sexual revolution, feminist ideology has in some way modified your way of thinking, or has contributed to something that maybe you don't hold those beliefs anymore, but at somewhere along the way you were taught, the way you were taught to socialize or interact with women, all of that in some way was shaped by feminist ideology. So if you we always talk about how the MGTOWs want to say, oh, well, we want to repeal the 19th, or we want to take away women's rights, and that'll solve a lot of problems. Well, the fact that we're even having this debate, the fact that somebody is uncomfortable with the idea of removing women's rights, or removing repealing the 19th so that women can't vote, that idea seems fundamentally wrong to us. Whereas prior to the suffragettes, that was, nobody cared. Nobody like, what the hell is it? Because voting was, of course, thought of in a different way. But the way that we were thinking as a society was a whole lot different, because we did not have that ideology as part of our upbringing and part of our just base education. The same thing, I think, is true of blank slate equalism. So we don't realize that we hold blank slate equalist ideas until we see it, until we're sensitive to it. It's almost like the red pill lens. You have to have like sort of a blank slate lens or a feminist lens or something like that, so that you can sort of understand when someone says these things. Like when I listen to Dr. Warren Farrell, like I've said a million times, I have the same problem with him that I do with Steven Pinker, is that he's got all of this, information just on hand, and yet he decides that at the end of his very complex, very, concise TED talk on human nature, or how there is no such thing as a blank slate. At the end of it, he goes, "Yeah, well, I'm a feminist." Or the same thing with Dr. Farrell, is I'll read his books and I'm very impressed with what he does, but at the end of it, he doesn't come to the same conclusion, whether by choice or by coercion. I don't know. So I felt like I need to start off with the blank slate here, because I think that a lot of guys don't realize that they are thinking that way. So when they are trying to apply themselves as far as game is concerned, they don't realize that they are defaulting to that. Women do the same thing too. Women are equally as guilty of adhering to the blank slate as guys are, but we only see it in certain aspects and in certain ways that whereas you might be an atheist, and you might be a secular humanist, or you might be a skeptic, or you might be, whatever. And then suddenly you'll say something, or we'll cover an area that I'm not expecting to hear it from, because I have an impression of, like, I'm referring to like the guy, I forget his name, Stefan, not Molyneux, Stefan Woodford's from Rationality Rules. Brilliant dude. I don't necessarily agree with him on everything, but a very brilliant guy. And I have an impression of him until he starts talking about how he was wrong about transgenders or feminism or something like that. And then it kind of blows my impression, because here's a guy who would otherwise stick to a very nuts and bolts definition of female versus male nature, and until it gets him into trouble, until it's something that he can be held accountable for in society, and people go, "Screw it, I'm not going to listen to you. You lose subscribers because you said something wrong." And now he's got to find some way to backpedal to make it sound better for himself. So anyways, I wanted to make sure that I covered that, because I think that fundamentally, when guys, particularly blue pill guys, and I know that we've all done this before, blue pill guys will use that assumption, not even really thinking about it, but they'll use the assumption that men and women are equal, or men and women are just the same. And if men and women are just the same, then what that means to me, as a rational, highly intelligent individual who should, otherwise be appreciated for that, I'm going to expect women to be equally rational. Just like it's like, well, if we're all the same, then that would mean that women have the same capacity for reason and rationality that I do. And that would mean that women are just as much idealists as I am. Women are just as open, I guess, to negotiation. Now, we've talked about, you guys and all of us have talked about how you cannot negotiate desire. That's a really tough step for guys who are still locked into this blue pill way of thinking. So I'll just throw it out to you guys. I mean, was there ever a time in your life where you thought you would be able to sort of sit down at the table and convince a woman that she ought to go out with you, or that you are actually the best option for her? Was there a point in your life where you guys did that?
I think we've all done it. I know I have.
I think I was a kid when I did it, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. That's the other sad part, is you'll get to once you get past a certain age, you're almost.
Why wouldn't you? That was basically the only coping skill you were given, as an adolescent growing up, was rationalize, negotiate, discuss,
and hope,
express your feelings,
and pray.
Hope and pray. Yeah.
Well, I know you guys probably get this, and I think one of the reasons why people, I'll just throw that up there real quick. We'll talk about borderline disorder Black Sheep. When I get to the part about Amber Heard, we'll get to that today. We're going to talk about Amber Heard a little bit. I remember doing this. I remember wondering why, like, a certain girl didn't see me as like the perfect boyfriend. And I think a lot of guys rely on the idea that if they prove themselves, that the woman is going to come around and the woman is going to finally see and appreciate the guy. So you get, and like I said, I'm not gonna show any of these texts from DDJ and his 4 girlfriends. But in pretty much every last one of these,
were they all real women or were they algorithms?
Good question. I know that there's one in the chat right now, so I'm not going to point her out, but I think everybody probably realized.
Oh, well, raise your hand then if it's in
raise your hand then. Yeah. Well, so my just from my assessment here, like when I see this back and forth. Now, here's the other thing. I don't want to the reason why I'm bringing up DDJ's interactions with this girl is because it's very similar to what Amber Heard, what Johnny Depp was trying to do with Amber Heard when they, and I'll put this up here in just a second, but there are new audio clips of Amber Heard and Johnny Depp fighting it out for whatever reason. And she's admitting, of course, to throwing pots and pans at him or throwing punches at him. And so she finally admits it. Now it's out. And all of the feminists who were, defending Amber Heard are suddenly, have gone silent right now. And of course, MRAs are saying, well, women are just as violent and they're just as prone to violence as anybody else is. And it's like, okay, those are the expected. That's what I expect from people right now when the truth finally comes out. But what people aren't talking about is how Johnny Depp is trying to sort of rationalize with Amber Heard as to why, why did you do this? Why did he's very calm. He's very collected. And I think a lot of guys will probably be the same way when exactly the reason why, or what he actually should have done is just simply walk, right? Why stick around? You're Johnny fucking Depp, man. Why not, just say, you know what? I'm done with this. I'm out. But instead he defaults back to wanting to reason with her, trying to find a way to solve the problem between him and her. Now, a lot of people are saying, well, isn't she borderline personality disorder? Yeah, she is. And that complicates the interaction that much more. So what guys will do is the idea that you can negotiate desire, the idea that you can negotiate your way into a woman's good graces is kind of like this fundamental flaw in thinking that I think goes back to the blank slate thinking. Let's see, what else do I got here for you guys?
Well, I'll add to that while you're mumbling.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Notice though, there's the thing that bugs me when you talk about the response from the guy side of things, the MRA and MGTOW, whoever. Do you notice how they adopt the same language? Mm-hmm. That's the part that kind of bothers me about feminism, because it's something I've learned from field reports. The way a guy uses language reflects how he thinks. And they literally change the language. So actually, as soon as you get a MGTOW guy referring to these things in power, because she has all the legal power to divorce, rape, or whatever. Right. They're just talking like feminists, but with a different team that they're rooting for. But I guess, yeah, it's like talking against the San Francisco 49ers.
Right. Yeah. There you go.
That was close.
Yeah. I actually went on Donovan's show this morning because he was talking about football, and that was interesting. It's funny because I can pretty much turn any conversation into a discourse on intersectional dynamics, even football.
That's because everything is about sex.
Yeah. It is.
All these feminists wearing pink hats. DDJ, because he was a feminist before he became a dirtbag, right? Mm-hmm. He didn't actually care about feminism. He just knew that pink hat was the quickest way to get some poon, and when it didn't work, he went MGTOW because I'd be pissed too.
Yeah. This is I'm gonna answer this one right now. I think this is great. It says, to Rich, Rollo, and Ryan, do you agree or disagree? You could be the biggest alpha and still get cheated on, especially in marriage when you are with someone 10 plus years. Women are not logical. I'll start with this really quickly here is and people probably know what I'm going to say anyways, is when I discuss, or when I've written about men and women processing information, I've always said it comes in 3 steps. There's the instinctual way, where it's like, is this something that is an immediate danger to me? It's that instinct. It's hardwired into your brains. And then there, of course, is emotion. And that's a way of understanding our universe or understanding our environment. And then there's the rational side of the argument. So you've got instinct, emotion, and reason. And the way that women prioritize that is instinct, emotion, and then reason. For men, it is instinct, reason, and then emotion. That's why you constantly hear women say, well, men need to express their feelings, or they need to get in touch with their emotional sides, or they need to get in touch with their feminine, their female sides, whatever it is. And really, it's not so much getting in touch with your female side. It is what they're asking you is to reprioritize the way that you process information. The correct way in a feminine primary society is instinct, emotion, and reason. That's what we teach our little boys. You need to be more, Johnny, you need to be more expressive. Johnny, you need to, how do you feel about that? It's okay for boys to cry, Johnny. You need to be more vulnerable. Be vulnerable because vulnerability is strength. And what they're
pretty vulnerable to that frying pan.
Yeah, exactly. And what they're saying, what the female-centric society is saying is that you should you should reprioritize the way that you do this. What the problem is we're not hardwired to do that. We're hardwired to go from instinct to what is all this about, and then how did I feel about it? It's the same way that one of the reasons why men and women have different ways of communicating with one another is because we process emotions differently, particularly negative emotions. And so men default to that rationale. That's why you get a guy like DDJ, or you get a guy like Johnny Depp, or you get a guy like Jeff Bezos, who is another guy that's in the news, who is also what anybody else would say. Like I run into so many guys that will say, well, Jeff Bezos he's an alpha man. He's the richest man in the world. And it's like, well, the richest man in the world just got played to the tune of $38 billion plus whatever else he's going to, end up paying to. The dick pics. Because at some point in his head, he says, this is the way to do this. This is the best. These are the best choices for me. So first of all, he's not an alpha guy. Let's just be honest here. Okay. Money does not make you alpha. Sometimes money can be a result of you being alpha. But in this case, I would say that the money is sort of mutually exclusive from whether or not Jeff Bezos is an alpha or he's a beta. So what do you guys think about that? Would you say that
as far as Jeff Bezos being alpha, or back to the question?
Just the question here, which is you could be the biggest alpha and still get cheated on, especially in a marriage when you are with someone 10 plus years. Women are not logical.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing that's incorrect about that statement. I mean, it sounds like the standard, soundbite you'll get off a MGTOW video, though.
Yes.
If Brad Pitt couldn't maintain frame, what makes you think you could do it, sort of thing, right?
Right.
So it's just like, it goes for anybody. It doesn't matter if you're Jeff Bezos or Brad Pitt or whoever. I mean, if you don't know what the fuck's going on, you don't know how to deal with arousal and attraction and women's innate nature, of course you're going to run into problems. And yes, women are not logical. They're far more emotional, but we already know that. It's not like we're talking about anything new here. It's like, hey guys, water's wet. Shit, I didn't know that. I just learned something today.
Right. I wanted to, Ryan, do you want to answer?
Yeah. All right, Sam, you're not going to like my answer, but it's the kind of answer you need. First off, the way you frame this is completely ridiculous. I can use the other R word, but
I'm glad you said it.
Yeah, R is not an archetype. That's some NPD fantasy of some dude with a chiseled jaw and rock solid frame.
Mm-hmm.
Stop using that weird language. That's MGTOW language. That's how nerds talk about jocks that have never seen a football in their life. Alpha, if it makes a girl wet, it's alpha. If it makes her comfortable, it's beta. That's it. From the red pill lens, that's the only two descriptors you need. Now, is a guy who has predominantly alpha behaviors, qualities, whatever, is he prone to get cheated on? I would say that has nothing to do with it. If you actually check it out, if you want to get into this, Dr. David Buss, Cindy Minston, Why Women Have Sex. Great book, long-ass read. You're reading basically 40,000 research papers about why chicks screw guys. And revenge is in there as a reason. Keeping the peace is a good reason. Just wanting something to eat, to stop him from nagging. Women have sex for all kinds of reasons that have nothing to do with desire.
Yeah.
Desire is the one we talk about because that's the one we're trying for, because you can't build a lifetime sexual strategy around just being the revenge fuck. Oh, sorry, Rollo.
That's all right. No worries.
So yeah, it's not really. And here's the thing: you got this weird baseball stat. Well, let's say in the third inning, if she does this and he's this, is she going to get a trip? No, it's not how it works. If she's not feeling the requisite amount of comfort, she's going to leave. If she's not feeling the requisite amount of desire, and this is where hypergamy comes in, she will look to her best option as somebody else. Women can only look up to one guy at a time, and if it's not you, it's somebody else.
I like
if that alpha guy has sufficiently hurt her to the point where she's not getting the tingles and she's got a different emotional set, she's probably going to go and grab that nice, comfortable guy and give him a handy. Or screw with the guys. I've been the best friend in that situation with the alpha male and his relationship. So I'm like, yeah, you're just framing it weirdly. Focus, and frame has nothing to do with it either. If he gets cheated on and he goes into a huge tantrum, starts throwing frying pans, well, there's no frame there. If he gets cheated on, ditches her, goes and does his own thing, that's frame. So frame won't stop you from getting cheated on. It's just going to prevent you from turning into a blubbering mess when you do.
Is there a story behind flying frying pans that I missed somewhere?
It's
that's what they were throwing at.
You're just throwing it. Yeah, okay. I'll put it up here in just a second. No, I wanted to start. I like this question because it sort of gets onto my next point here. There's particularly amongst MGTOWs, there is almost this disappointment that women aren't logical. Women aren't logical. They're emotional. They're crazy. You know, they're just, they live by their emotions. They interpret their world through their emotions. And that's half right. But the frustration, I think, is kind of silly because you're talking about men and women who are different. We just said this. I just said this when we were doing the intro here about blank slate equalism. Yes, they're not logical. Are they logical? They can be. They can be taught to be. But out of the womb, with their starting package, you know, with the standard equipment, no, they're not, because they process emotion prior to processing reason. And so what I have written down here says that there's a misguided presumption that women will prioritize reason before emotion. And in every single one of these back and forth discourses I've read through DDJ's 4 girlfriends he's had on the side, or
man, for reading all that crap.
Well, I didn't. I read the highlight reel. It was actually John from Modern Life Dating who went and read through the whole thing. He was just giving me the highlights of this thing. But as I'm watching this, I'm watching a typical blue pill beta male trying to find a way to rationalize and reason his way into intimacy with a woman. Like, I don't understand why you don't appreciate me for being, for solving your problems. Right. It's a relational equity. And what's funny, and I shouldn't say what's funny, what's pathetic is when you get a blue pill guy who believes he has relational equity in a relationship where he's never had sex with a woman in the first place. He doesn't actually have a real legitimate relationship with that woman, but he still believes that what he's done for her, she should reciprocate on his investment, right? It's a return on investment. Like, I went and solved your problems. I went and paid off your bills. I'm the one who paid the rent for you. All those consequences. I'm the guy who said, hey, I don't care if you had sex with the alpha guy. I'm here for you. I'm going to be the best that I can be for you. And this is what I call typical beta. It's betas in waiting. It's these guys who go through life and they think that if they stick to their guns and they stick to what they've been taught, and whether it's a religious reason, or it's an intellectual reason, or a sociological reason, like how they've been acculturated, whatever, and they stick to their guns, that finally at some point, usually right around when a woman is in her epiphany phase, that's when he hits pay dirt. That's when it all starts to pay off. And there's nothing more that you will never meet a more self-righteous guy than the guy who gets to that point. And the girl he wanted to bang for so long when he was in when she was in her 20s and they were in their 20s, he gets to be 30 years old. And now she's like, oh, I can't believe you were here all along. You're actually the best guy that I could have got with. And there is nothing more self-affirming for that guy who's been waiting that long to hear those words from the woman who's probably got, 2 kids from, 2 different fathers. And he's like, that's okay because I'm a swell guy and it's my masculine duty to, forgive you of your sins. Then you should reciprocate with intimacy, with love, with respect, with sex, with all of these other great things. What are you laughing at?
My girlfriend is coming out of Sparta.
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah. So, and I want to say this as well, is that even the smartest women default to emotion before reason. And the reason for that is because we are hardwired to do that. Women and men have different mental firmware, evolved mental firmware. We come out of the womb with different natural proclivities. And one of those is that women have a better capacity for communication than men do. Provable. We can see it in the brain function. We can see it in, what fMRI scans. We can look at brain architecture, and we can see that there is a difference between how men interpret their world and how women interpret their world. And so, yes, our women just aren't logical. Thanks for that. Okay. How are you going to use that information? Now that you realize that, so if women aren't logical, why are you still trying to use logic to get in there, to get into her pants, to get into, to expect her to reciprocate on all of this stuff? So that's what guys do, is they appeal to reason. They think that if they make their case, if they negotiate, that's one of the reasons why I have such a problem with Jordan Peterson, is because everything's about dominance hierarchies, and I agree with them on all that until you get into a marriage, and then it's like, you need to marry someone you can negotiate with. It's like, where did all this come from? Where did that come from? So, what I'm trying to see what else.
It always seems like guys that try to appeal to a woman's reason, it's almost like it's their last bargaining chip. They don't really have any other cards to drop on the table. You know what I mean?
Yeah, one-trick pony and a lame pony.
Yeah, it's like a one. Yeah, exactly. It's a one-trick pony. Yeah. It's like the only move that they got when they've run out of moves. I mean, you can see a guy. I mean, I hate to keep talking about it, but you can see with this guy DDJ, this guy Bob, now that we know what he looks like, and we've seen him speak at feminist conventions, and he was a failed Green Party liberal politician, all that sort of stuff. You can see how he would default to something like that to try to negotiate desire and get into these women's pants. But it just seems to always be that case. I mean, a natural Chad, like a Corey Worthington, as you wrote about in your first book, would never do that. He would never appeal to a woman's reason. He would never he wouldn't even think to do it.
Yeah.
He'd be like, "That's not happening, man." It's like the default programming that he would operate by. But when you defer down to a lower level, and it's the only bargaining chip that you have in your deck left, then of course, I mean, what else are you going to do, right?
Yeah, it's funny you should say that. I actually accounted for this in my notes here. So blue pill men rely on their intellectual debate game, I guess, if you can call that. I've said this before. I've gone on record as saying, every guy has game. Every guy has something in the back of his head where he says, this is the best way to go from being without a girlfriend to being single and sexless to being in a relationship with a woman. And they believe that they know the best way to get from point A to point B. And usually it's like proving themselves. It's usually building themselves up or building a life around themselves. It's based on their capacity for provisioning, but it's also based on competency, because what are women looking for? Right? At least if you ask a woman, what is it that you're looking for in a guy? She's not going to tell you that she's like hot for the guy who has six-pack abs and looks like Chris Hemsworth, and she really wants to nail this guy unless she's drunk with her girlfriends on a Saturday night. If she's answering that in any kind of public capacity, she's telling you, I need a guy that's funny. I need a guy that loves his mom. I want a guy who wants kids. He needs to be, the same religion. He needs to, like what Royce calls the 436 point checklist, right? All of the prerequisites that person, and all of those are based on competency. All of those are based on the guy committing himself and committing his life to building himself up to be the best person that he can be, in the hopes that some woman at somewhere along the some stage is going to choose him because he's the best provider. And this is old world thinking, because we're moving into, I'm writing a follow-up to my other essay about old world versus new world thinking. Renegade Show here says she will hate that beta provider in the end, though, because she settled for him and will compare him to the alpha of her youth. He will fall short. That's pretty much, that's pretty much Renegade Show. That's pretty much my alpha widow concept about pining for the guy, for the fun guy from her past. There's only once a woman, like, what were we talking? We were talking about how women.
Well, it's like asking a guy, like, don't be angry. If you're already angry, you can't not be angry. It's the same thing with desire for chicks.
Mm-hmm.
Or tell you, hey, if you're terrified of spiders, okay, I'm not going to be scared of spiders anymore. You can't decide this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing.
Well, so I think that we don't, if you're going to be a logical guy and you want to solve your reproductive problems and you're going to say, well, I'm going to sit down at the table, I'm going to tell her all these great things that I've done with my life to prepare to be the best man I can possibly be for this woman. And yet she goes off and she bangs Corey Worthington. What does that do to a guy? What does that do to a guy who's built his life up around that and built his belief set up around the idea?
Takes a wind right out of his sails, right?
Takes a wind right out of his sails, man.
His
And
entire,
more guys are doing that.
His entire belief system, his safe world theory completely collapses. And then he starts making hit videos and taking $1,000 for some prick to defame Rollo.
Right. Yeah. Let's slip all that in there. Oh, either that or he goes off and starts selling sex dolls.
Yeah.
Whatever. We're never going to get this trend of drama again. We're savvy enough now.
It's so funny, though. It is so funny.
Well, and Rich, just before you took off for a second there, I was saying this, like, what are the things that guys lack that forces them to turn their game into intellectual game? Like, if I'm a smart guy and I can prove my case, prove my quality to milady, what are they lacking? The first thing you said, of course, is physical prowess. I put that up there too. So what that is they can't naturally attract or arouse women.
Well,
attraction and arousal are two different things.
Work that hard at it, right? I mean, quite often whenever I I always get into these like Zoom webinars and hangouts. Most of them end up being private, and there's always somebody that's like, I'll give an example that doesn't strike directly to the sexual marketplace and appealing to women's reason. But a guy comes on and he's like, hey, I really want to give back. I want to chime in. I've got a lot of value out of this. What can I do to bring something to the table, right? And immediately, I'm trying to determine where is this guy at. So my question is, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being your absolute best version of you and 1 being the worst, where are you on that scale right now? He's like, well, I'm about a 3. I'm like, there's nothing you need to fix in the outside world right now. You need to work on fixing yourself. You need to look within and work on that. And it's the same sort of thing that applies to guys. Like when they start finding themselves trying to negotiate desire or appealing to reason or try to negotiate attraction, it's like your sexual marketplace value, like your SMV is so low that you can't rely on your appearance, your looks, your game, your status, any of those things. So you just default to, well, if I help her move, right? Somebody sent me the screen cap the other day. I think I shared it on Twitter, but it was a single mom trying to convince this guy to help her move and hang shelves and do a few other tasks for her, basically chore play. And it didn't seem like they had even met. It was like on a dating app or something like that. It's like, of course he's going to, play that game. Whereas she's going to get on a text later on that night and call over Chad at 11 o'clock when her kids are in bed to come monkey fuck the shit out of her in the basement with, the pillow on her head. It's like two different types of deals. So when you find yourself appealing to her reason or trying to appeal to her reason, you're on the wrong end of the stick, dude. Like you've got some work to do. You got to slow things down and ask yourself, why am I trying to negotiate desire with this woman?
Right. I think for a lot of guys, like particularly blue pill guys, who mostly younger guys, like I would expect, one of the things that kind of blows me away that like a guy like, well, certainly DDJ, but also like Johnny Depp or even Jeff Bezos, who I believe Jeff Bezos is about the same age as I am, like how they haven't figured this shit out. How is it that you've gotten to 50 years old and
could you imagine how much more effective these guys would be in the world? Guys like Elon Musk. Jeff Bezos, if they spent a weekend with us.
Oh man, yeah, it would change their lives.
You'd be on the moon in 2 years.
Or Mars for sure. Yeah. Well, it's funny is like every time I see Elon Musk in the news and he's like, I guess he knocked up his goth girlfriend. Finally. And
flyer to Mars.
Yeah.
Drop her off.
Well, I mean, it's just another disaster waiting to happen for this guy. And yeah, you're right. Like did either of you guys read the interview of it was Neil Strauss, actually. That's why I was brought to my attention. Neil Strauss interviewed Elon Musk for Rolling Stone magazine.
I did a video on that.
And he broke up. Yeah, he broke up with his wife or his girlfriend or something right when the interview was going on.
He could not present on the Tesla Model 3 correctly, and during the interview he actually broke down in a ball on the ground and it basically started bawling
his head off,
in front of Neil Strauss. The guy's like, recording this interaction with him. It's like, fuck, man, like how could you get to that point?
Yeah, well, so I think, okay, so how do you get to that point? Well, you're talking about guys who have a particular mindset, right? I think Elon Musk is a good example, but it's these guys who overthink it, still thinking that they can apply this rational, logical perspective to their relationship. So they don't like
smart guys do this though. I mean, you said that from the opener, really smart. I mean, Bob Lewis is a smart man. He understands the intricacies of family law. Whether he practices or not is yet up to debate. But he understands it's the same thing with Elon Musk. The guy's brilliant level, right? Jeff Bezos, brilliant level.
Same thing Vox Day says is that you get to a point of because Vox is all about IQ and stuff like that. And you could say whether you have a positive or negative influence or perception of Vox, I don't care. But he is correct in this, is like you get to a point of intellect where it becomes a disadvantage to a guy.
Yeah.
Like unless you're focusing on unless you go monk mode for life and you turn into Nikolai Tesla, right? There's your MGTOW hero right there. Okay, you can be super, super intelligent, but it's not an advantage for you when it comes to social intelligence, when you're just thinking about one thing, or you're like so intelligent or so enamored with your own intelligence that it becomes a hindrance to you. And that's why when I'm looking at this dialogue between DDJ and these girls, I'm like, here is a guy who is expecting one of these four women to and they all have the same response to him, which is funny, but expecting him to produce some sort of intellectual reason or some checkmate argument to say, oh, you're right, I should be fucking you. Like that's the idea. Like that's oh, you know what? No one ever told me that. I think, you know what, you're right, I should be having sex with.
Yes.
Why don't we have babies now?
Yes.
Like but the fun, like again, then these guys get into very weak positions because you got like a guy like Elon Musk, who is, I think, he's been married twice. I know that. Amber Heard was also one of those chicks too.
He's been married 3 times, twice to the same woman. Yeah.
Spencer has this is a pretty good question here. So what do you appeal to? Just emotions, realizing I fell prey to this thinking. Now, I'm going to answer that question. We'll come back to this in just a second. But do you guys remember the dude who was the spreadsheet dude?
I've heard of the spreadsheet guy.
Spreadsheet dude was from back in like 2015 or 2016, and it was a story that was getting circulated around. I missed.
It was from Reddit originally.
Yeah, it was from Reddit originally.
The news.
And it started making the news, and of course, women lost their shit on it too. But it was a guy who was married, and he tracked all of the reasons and all of the dates where he tried to initiate sex with his wife, and she turned him down. So on February 2nd, I tried to do this, and she said she had a headache. Or I went, February 8th, I did this, and she said, she said this. And so he goes and he runs down this spreadsheet of all the
desire
reasons.
in a women than when you do something like that. Like, could you imagine this guy sitting his wife down, like after 3 months of collecting the spreadsheet, and be like, look, I'm really frustrated here. I've collected some data points I want to show you on a PowerPoint presentation. Let me project it up on the screen. I tried to make sexual advances here on these dates, and this is how you responded. You could just like literally hear if you're standing in a desert and you see the ground like cracking up and drying from the hot sun with her, like the moisture just leaves her body around a guy like that.
To be fair to that guy though, when he actually did give it to her, it was like he was at his wit's end. He was literally like losing his mind.
Of course.
Like, you know what? Screw
He's
you.
trying to solve his reproductive problem.
By the way, the reasons were hilarious. My favorite one was there was an episode of Friends.
She would bang him over an episode of Friends.
And this wasn't in the 90s. This is like the Netflix rerun.
Oh, man.
Man.
That's when you know the clock is ticking down on your divorce and your marriage, when your wife won't bang you because Friends is better.
Yeah. Well, and so here you have a guy who is trying, and YOLO, I'll get to you're a little off topic there, dude. I will get to this is his thing. I'll get to you later on, dude. I promise. I'm going to answer. If you guys have a on topic question, it's more likely to get up here in just a second, but I will get back to you, dude. So that was one thing. The one thing of course, physical prowess. So when you've got a guy who can't compete on a physical level with other guys, I think particularly if the guy is more intelligent, he's going to be the guy that is going to be more prone to use reason as his primary game, right? When I was saying before, everybody has a game. How effective that game actually is really what's up for debate. But that's why PUA game is more effective than your blue pill rationalization game, right? What do the numbers say? What do what's the response?
Rollo, you're such a pussy beggar.
Oh my gosh, he said PUA in a positive way. But so there's that, but with the why is that? Well, just like what you said a minute ago there, Rich, is these guys believe in that old order way of thinking. They believe that, first of all, they believe in the blank slate, but they also believe in this old order way of thinking. They believe that the old social contract actually means something right now. That if I'm a competent man, if I'm intelligent enough to solve her problems, she will reciprocate with sex. And I know this because my dad did exactly this. And it was so embedded in my dad's brain that when he got into the hospital, because he died from dementia and stuff, even when he couldn't remember my name or my daughter's name, he still was trying to get in there with some of the ladies in the assisted living place by going out and doing something for them. Like I went and I pulled the weeds out of Miss McGillicuddy's garden, and she still won't give me a kiss. It's like that's how deep it goes, is this idea that if I stick to my guns, if I do these things, I'm going to solve my reproductive problems. And so what guys do is they will replace going to the gym or really sort of throwing away that old way of thinking and sticking to their guns to rationalizing, I think, the quality of that woman. So if women don't respond to that guy, and I know you guys have run into this because we've had the discussion about the myth of the quality woman. Why is it that guys default to thinking that a woman is quality or she's not quality?
Because if it's her fault, then there's nothing you have to fix.
Right.
And that's another reason I hate BPD when people use that. The whole reason they're saying Amber Heard's is BPD is so that they don't have to learn anything from this. They can just write her off as crazy, and all I got to do is find one that's not crazy. Well,
yeah, I don't know how it is that every single time something goes down out there publicly, in the media, men automatically default. Oh, she's BPD. She's got daddy issues. Like right away.
Yeah, the only possible reason
some of them do. Some of them do, but not always.
Right. Well, I think that the idea of they'll say a woman is damaged. There's something wrong with her. I will guarantee you that if I had DDJ on here, Rose, I'm sure the first thing out of his mouth will be, "You're a damaged girl. You're a damaged woman. There's something wrong with you. You're low quality, and that's why you can't appreciate a great secret king like
there
DDJ."
It is. Inferring
that's why he works so hard to try to bang her too, right?
Mm-hmm. Hacker Boy says a Brazilian celeb recently said she lost sexual interest in her husband after birth and now sees him as a brother. Why is that?
Pregnancy hormones, postpartum depression. There's all kinds of reasons that have nothing to do with anything.
She's off here. She's off the pill. She's off the pill. And she now, like the guy that she found, and this is me throwing out theory here. I'm going to get into this tomorrow when we talk about
I agree with this, man. I've heard you say this before.
Yeah, she got off the pill, and what she used to find attractive, now she can't understand why she got with this guy at all. That's why she sees you as a brother. If a woman says this, if a woman ever says, "I see him as a brother," that means that she thinks of the idea of sex with you is like incest. Okay, that she thinks
not Pornhub incest, like actual.
Yeah, not Pornhub. Yeah, exactly, real incest. Because you've gone from being a sexual being to familiarity. You've got this is the stuffed animal analogy that I always say, and this is another great. I'm glad we kind of got around to this, because what happens is when guys decide that they want to be a woman's friend, or they believe that if they stay that girl's friend, that eventually she's going to see him for the wonderful boyfriend that he really is, and then she's going to eventually want to have sex with him, or she's going to feel some sort of unbridled lust because he's actually the one for her. He's actually the perfect guy for her.
Yet completely incapable of making a single move towards it and waiting for her to lead.
Right.
Talk about men raised by effective women, man.
Yeah. And then that gets down to the stuffed animal. So those guys become stuffed animals. They are asexual men or males, let's just say, and they're there for one thing, which is emotional investment. Is I'm going to cry on his shoulder. He's always there for me. What a swell guy. You see these occasionally on guys will send me pictures of their friends, or there'll be like some tweet from some girl who's put out a picture, maybe it's on her Instagram, of her best friend, the guy who's never going to get laid, but has been trying to get in there for the last, 5 to 10 years because they've been such great friends. And this is the guy who's going to lose his shit when she decides to finally marry the guy who is more arousing, more, the guy that really gets her off. But this is oh geez, thanks, man. Thank you, brother. 50 Canadian dollars. How much is Canadian dollars worth out there?
30%.
30%. Okay,
Yeah.
Here we go. What is this one? What is the best frame to possess when interacting with a woman who is getting emotional on anything? Oh, good question. How does one reason or manage or manage with them?
Well, how invested are you? Because if that's a first date, I can give you an easy answer. If that's a wife of 10 years, there's a different answer.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's exactly that's where Johnny Depp failed, right? He was trying to relate to this woman, to Amber Heard. Amber Heard's whacked. I got it. But look where he goes to try to diffuse her. He goes to using logic. He goes to, well, I'm the, I could solve your problems. I can do all this good stuff there. She's throwing pots and pans at him, and he doesn't understand that he's not having a rational, reasonable argument with her.
She doesn't want to be calmed down. She wants a fight.
Yeah.
So when he's not giving it to her, that riles her up even more.
Yeah, I wrote this one down here too. You will never solve an emotional argument with rational solutions, because it's the emotional state that woman is in. She doesn't want that. What was it? You guys have seen that video about the nail, right? About the girl with the nail in the head, and the guys.
Let me see if I can pick it up and drop it in the chat for the guys.
That'd be cool. Yeah, put it in there. I can't show it because I'm sure I'll get hit for a copyright. But essentially, what it is a joke. It's a little skit, and it's this woman and this man sitting on a couch, and she's just talking about this pain in her head, and just going into these really emotive descriptions of what this horrible pain. There's this nail sticking out of her head, and the guy goes, well, we could just remove that nail, and I bet all that shit would clear up. And she's like, it's not about the nail, and she's because what this is, it's a joke, but it's an illustration of women's emotional arguments and men trying to solve those emotional arguments with rationality, with reason. This is I love that video because it's a funny way of illustrating men's appeals to reason. When we talked about the guy with the Excel sheet, what did he expect? What do you think that guy was thinking? Why even bother? Especially after as many incidences that he got shot down by his wife.
I'll tell you exactly what he was expecting. He was thinking to himself, you know what? Maybe I should be banging him. You know what? I think you're right. I have been unreasonable. I shouldn't have been watching Friends. I should have been banging you instead. That's exactly what the dude was thinking was going to happen towards the end.
Ryan Sullivan says the rational solution to emotions is a spanking. Yes, that's the
thrashing.
That's the Andrew Tate solution.
What's the
okay? So it works great.
Okay, so what's the solution to this? Because there's always somebody in the chat that's like, "Well, you're not really giving us any answers here. I want a play-by-play solution to this problem with appealing to women's reason. What do I do instead?" So what's the answer to that, Rollo?
Unlearn what you've learned. Understand, here's the thing that gets me is if I was to, because I'm such a generous guy, if I wanted to help out a guy like DDJ and say, hey, here's what you might want to start thinking about. Stop referring to women in a rational, reasonable way. Stop thinking of them as your equal. And I don't mean they're less than you or more than you. I'm just saying they're different than you. and they process emotions differently. When a woman wants to get with a guy, it's not like she's going, let me check. It's not like she's making a spreadsheet herself to see all the pros and the cons of getting with that guy. She sees the dude, she's hot for the dude, she wants to bang the dude, and then from there, maybe he's a nice guy, maybe we can go out and have coffee together. Those kinds of things. Understand that her way of interpreting the world is instinct, emotion, and reason. And when she is in that emotional state, you need to either deal with her from that emotional perspective or don't deal at all, or walk away and go away from it. You're not going to teach her to emote the way that you want her to with rational, reasonable, discourse, negotiating. That's why I constantly say you cannot negotiate genuine desire. Why did I talk about that? Why did I come up with that in the first place? Was because I kept seeing all these guys who would say, well, me and my wife are having some troubles and we're going to go to marriage counseling. And they'll go and they'll sit there for, an hour or whatever, $75 an hour, so that they can listen to the female therapist say, well, you need to do what she says. Or they'll of course follow the Jordan Peterson pop psychology recipe, which is, okay, what is it that you want, Jim? I want more. I want her to fuck me, and I want her to fuck me like she used to back when we were in our 20s and before we got married. Great. Jan, what would you like? Well, I want him to do this and I want him to do that. And I need him to do the dishes and he needs to take care of the babies. And I need him to be more romantic and blah, 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 blah. And then they go, okay, do you think you could do these things once a week? Yeah. Do you think you could bang him give him a Hummer now and then? And so it's this back and forth. And when they get home, yeah, it's like, remember, did you guys ever see the movie Old School?
Oh, yeah.
With I forget Hank the Tank, right? And they're go to marriage counseling. He's like, man, he's talking about, I see these girls and they're just in their bikinis, they look totally hot, and like, I thought we were in the trust nest.
Yeah, that was the trust nest.
I thought we were in the trust. Everybody's looking at him like he's crazy, and it's like, well, that's funny because that's the kind of shit that happens to guys. And the problem I see when with guys that do this, I mean, I've talked about this with Pat dozens of different times, but the guys genuinely go in there with a belief that they're going to go there and they're going to solve their problems. They're going to go and untangle all of this mess. And I live in a sexist relationship. How do I get this chick to find? How do I have my wife, who I'm supposed to be with for the rest of my life, to actually want to have sex with me? And I think that they believe that they're actually going to make some progress in there, and then they find out that they don't, because they're
taking a good faith approach to an adversarial dynamic.
Exactly. And so you want to know how to solve those problems. First of all, you don't go to marriage counseling. You understand the basic nature of women, and the basic nature is that they respond emotionally before they respond rationally.
Yeah, here's a comment from Chris. Yeah, throw that up there.
Yeah, he says, girlfriend confided a negative about our relationship to her gay best friend. He confronted me about it. Should I negotiate to go back? Was betrayed.
What say you, Godfather?
I'm trying to figure out what exactly.
What does confided negative mean?
So girlfriend bitched to her gay girlfriend, boyfriend, friend, and the gay guy got back to Chris and said, "This is what she said about you. It's negative." Mm-hmm. And he's asking, should I go back or should I negotiate to go back?
Don't talk to her. Act.
Yeah. That's
all the talking's going to do. She's just going to deny it and then hide better.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So there's the.
It sounds like they've been broken up, so it's like
it sounds like they are too. So right? What I would say,
garbage.
Yeah, well, yeah, don't go exactly. Just eject, and I mean that's the solution, right? Is to just say, you know what? If that's first of all, why is she like? If you have that tight a relationship, if she's your girlfriend, why is she not telling you this? Why are you not figuring this kind of shit out? I think that a lot of guys get into sort of this cloak and dagger bullshit where it's like, oh, well, she said this, or I found this out on her phone. I went and looked through her contacts or texts or whatever, and I found out that she really thinks I have a little dick, and it's like, okay, well, it's not the fact of what she said. It's the fact that you're at a point right now where you feel like you need to go do that. Like you feel that you have these suspicions. Well, why do you have those suspicions? You have those suspicions because obviously there's something your subconscious is picking up on this, and it's informing your conscious that maybe you need to go, creep around on her socials, right? You need to go, get it from a third party. The real solution is Ryan's solution, I think, which is just eject and get out. But I think that it's, does your dog have a solution for us as well?
Oh, yeah. The solution is that cat's got to get out of here. Apologies. I forgot how loud he can be when he wants to be.
Yeah.
Do you mind if I take a go at this guy's question about
Sure.
why aren't you guys giving us anything better than the Pat Stedman approach?
Sure.
All right. I don't mean to be dismissive of you, but I kind of am because I'm a little bit insulted. It's my entire body of work here.
Yeah.
Take a couple psychological concepts. This is a very brief overview. You got fear of missing out. You got the idea of pre-selection. You got the fear of loss. You got the concept of hypergamy. In other words, a girl can only love her best option. And so long as he is, then they'll love somebody else. All those things show you kind of what behaviors work best. Pre-selection is being attractive to other women. Women are, actually, it's a human thing for the most part, but women especially here. They have a habit of saving brain power. We're very lazy as a species. So for girls to find a guy attractive, their brain makes a short circuit and they go, other women find him attractive. I can save my cognitive brain load and realize he's attractive. So one of the best ways to keep a relationship is to have another girl easily willing to take her place if she doesn't want you anymore. And that keeps girls acting right. Is it manipulative? Yes. But is it manipulative in the same way that if a baby cries, they want you to pick them up? Yes. So it's not always bad. Add to that persuasion, and Rollo's been hinting at this. The order of persuasion is ethos, pathos, logos. Now, don't give me that appearance of logic crap. The point is your status matters. And then your ability to engage emotions matters. And then any of the appearance of logic matters. So status is key. Now, what status means depends on you guys. If she's a ball-busting corporate lawyer, then being the director of ball-busting of corporate lawyers is a status. If she's an art student, you being in a rock band is a status thing. Whatever status means for you. Being a millionaire can be status. And that's the only way that money makes an alpha quality. Pioneer of industry, whatever. So at the end of the day, you be the prize. And the frame part is where you manage it because you have to be the judge. When guys are negotiating with girls, the problem is it gives them the power and the dynamic. You're saying, here's my argument. I want you to judge this as correct. And women hate that. All you're doing is saying, hey, you're above me in this hierarchy. And you're just telling her, yeah, your hypergamy is right. You can't stand the sight of me. You need to flip that. Mystery. Rollo, what was the term called when Mystery used to hand girls his like necklace or you handed girls a drink before you do a set? I can't remember the name of it.
Yeah, it's a prop, but it was, I don't know, it was like a leader or something like that, where you you give it to them, so you have some sort of, she's got some investment in you.
Yeah, you give her like a task to do, she can show investment.
So it's actually a test of like qualifying her to you.
Yeah, similar to the Ben Franklin effect, but that's the thing. You start doing it where you're the judge, and you're putting the onus on her to show she's worth being in your life. Flips the whole dynamic around. Instead of you thinking, how do I pair bond with a girl over a lifetime? It's what does she have to do if she wants to keep me around for the long term? And that is a game changer when it comes to relationships. I think most guys, you can tell when somebody's truly got it when he adopts that mindset and he realizes that you are the prize. You don't just say it as an affirmation. You actually act like it. And in this case where she's telling your gay friend that your penis is small, right there, no, get out of my life. You don't talk, you just ghost her.
Just do
and
it.
if she gets mad, yeah. And it's on her. Now, the question you got to ask yourself is, what does she have to do to get past whatever negative shit she told you before? The answer might be nothing, in which case never talk to her again. Maybe finally giving it to you in the pooper is what you need. I don't know. But the point is, then you don't have to ask, should I talk to her about it? It's no, that's on her. So yeah, and I guess I'll end it off, quick little thing here, and I'll pass it back off to Rollo because I'm kind of doing a monologue here. But
that's all right.
The provider, the reason it worked back in the day was because people starved to death. We are in a land of abundance. And so the provider dynamic has completely been removed from a female's, I guess, criteria for a man. She literally does not need no man to not starve in the street and have a healthy life. So you can't be needed. You have to be wanted. As much as a lot of guys hate that I'm laughing at their masculine duty, but being the hottest guy who's got the pick of the litter and choosing her is going to be your long-term mate retention strategy. And it only gets easier over time because as a girl hits 40 and sees the 20-year-olds talking to you, she has to work that much harder. and you'll have your wife goggles on, so you're always going to see her as that hot 23-year-old. It's nature's way of keeping us together against our own better against our own better judgment. So if that answers your question, I hope it answers your question. If not, do something in the chat and we can debate bro later.
That was the best answer you could have possibly given.
That was good. Yeah. See, look what you get from here. When people were asking, like, how do you change your way of thinking about women? How do you say, you know what, like, how do you go from like
stop treating them like men?
Yeah. One to
stop treating them like men. They're not equal. They're not the same as you.
Yeah.
I mean, you stop doing that.
Like I got my, and this was cool. He says, Rolly, you're assuming she means what she says. No, actually I'm not. I'm saying that you have to, I've always said this, is that the medium is the message. You have to watch what she's doing. What was the act that she did? Well, in this guy's case, it's like she went to talk and, confided in her gay friend. That's the medium. That's what she did. And I think that, like, when guys tell me, oh, women are, that she's giving me mixed messages. No, women don't give you mixed messages. You just have to look at what she's doing. You have to, they give you messages, and you have to be the one who can, like,
sometimes they give you messages you don't like.
Yes. The other thing I was going to say, and I got this written down in my notes here as well, is like, I think one of the things that guys have to do, particularly guys who are overly smart or guys who I would say are almost pathological, is you have to, and I mean pathological in the sense that maybe they don't realize that they're being pathological, but you have to have this capacity to sort of abandon your intellectual hubris. Like, I'm so smart, women should appreciate me for what I am. Look at all the good stuff I do. I am unique. I am not like, I've written this a million times. It's like this, it's the myth of I'm not like other guys. No, you are exactly like other guys. Yeah. That's why you don't stand out. Why does really, when you think about attracting them or solving your reproductive problems, what do you have to do? I have to stand out amongst the crowd of guys. How am I going to do that? Everybody has something that makes them, oh, well, women got off because I have a 6-pack abs, right? So you go on Tinder and you're going to see guys with 6-pack abs. It's, that's what, because you don't see that. It's like pattern recognition, right? It's the purple cow theory. If you've got a field of brown cows and there's a purple one out there, your eyes are going to go to that one. That is like the natural, male deductive problem solving game that most guys have. What happens is when you invest your ego in the idea that it is your commitment to that girl, or your commitment to solving her problems, or your commitment to qualifying to her, or maybe you don't think you're qualifying. Most guys don't think that they're qualifying to women. I would guarantee you that if you were to read this stuff, you would say, well, DDJ probably is not trying to qualify to her. He's trying to solve the problem. But then what happens is you see this qualification. He doesn't think he is, but the way that I read it and what I see right here is this guy who's trying to solve a problem. He's trying to solve an emotional problem with rational information, and it's not going to work. And he's never going to learn this because he's too invested in his own intellect. It's just like Stefan Molyneux or really super intelligent guys like Vox was saying, is like there are guys who are just too intelligent or they have a high IQ to the point where it's a disability to them. It might be a real big advantage in coding or whatever it is they do for a living, but when it comes to interpersonal relationships, it is a big disadvantage because they believe that other people should appreciate them for that intellect, and simply don't. If you're not hot, you're not hot. If there's no freaking arousal there, I don't care what your IQ is. Right? They're going to go fuck the dumb, hot alpha before they're going to fuck you. That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense because it'll be, the population will all be dumb, ignorant idiots. I saw that, and Rich, I know we're going to talk about this at some point, but like when I talked to you about Alpha God, I watched this. Somebody sent me a interview of Dr. Hector Garcia and this guy who I can't remember his name. It's like the Jolly Roger intellect guy or atheist guy. I don't know, but Jolly something or other. Mm-hmm. And you could tell what he was trying to do with Dr. Hector Garcia. It was trying to sort of bend him around to his sort of ideological way of thinking, which of course was ethno-nationalism and race realism and IQ and everything. And so what he was saying was an argument that I hear quite a bit is that, well, because women are the way they are, they're going to fuck the idiot guys, the most unintelligent guys, and not fuck the smart guys and have babies with the smart guys because they are attracted and aroused by the dumb jocks who are more arousing to them. And therefore the human race is doomed because because women are in control of the reproductive process of humanity right now. And so the reason why guys get upset about that is because they think that women should have the rational, reasonable, logical, solution to the world's problems in the back of their heads. Well, he's fun to fuck, but I need to breed with these super intelligent guys here, so we have more super intelligent babies into the future, and therefore we're going to have.
Can't compete with it too. Did you ever see that docu-series on Netflix with Aaron Hernandez, a football player? I don't know if you saw it.
Oh yeah. I know what you're talking about, though.
So
I know.
So there's a quick segment in the third episode where they were dealing with the jurors, and Aaron Hernandez walks in, and one of the female jurors said, "Oh my God, he's gorgeous," and they were looking for more female jurors because of that. And it's like, that side of the legal spectrum is obviously going to try to find, women that are going to break rules, and they know that women will break rules for the alphas, or men that they deem as alpha anyway.
And they use it to their advantage.
Of course. Why not? Right. I mean, but guys will get pissed off when they see that happen. Like, how does he get a free ride? Why is it easier it's like, do the work, dude. I mean, so many guys, well, I'm only 5'5". I can't get girls. This is not possible for me. What am I supposed to do? I'm just going to go MGTOW. It's like, be 5'5", rich with muscles, right? Like, figure it out, right? Like, have some game, Mick Jagger's an ugly motherfucker, and guy gets laid more than anybody else that I could possibly point to, maybe with the exception of Gene
Simmons.
Gene Simmons,
70 years old.
But I mean, like, unattractive men get laid too, right? Like, they can be spoiled for choice when they've done the work.
So I've got. Let's see. I'm going to put up. There we go. This is hopefully you guys will be able to hear this. I'm going to crank it here, but this is the audio from Amber Heard. Have you guys heard this yet?
No, I haven't heard it yet. Go ahead.
No, I just love the bobbleheads.
I texted Travis. I said, "Come up here," because I didn't want anything to happen.
I mean,
It's coming to what? Save me?
No, go ahead. Continue. You Travis to the rescue.
No, that was the last one. You can go. You go. That was the last insult.
You called me a liar, and yet.
I watched you lie.
I can hear her baiting him in that.
You lie. I heard it. I was right there.
There's no what. You still haven't told me what lie it is. But yet every single fucking
can also
time.
hear him
Every single fucking
We'll talk
time.
to Travis.
I'm not fucking talking to nobody.
No,
fuck that. You
fucking...
go fucking jerk him off. I don't care. I really could care less. It's you every single time. You latch onto some sort of thing. When I already told you, I don't know what you're fucking talking about. You don't even know what you're talking about. You still haven't even told me what it is. But run with it.
I have told you what it is.
No, you haven't.
I said to Travis, I said to you, hey, tell Travis what just happened.
You told me to do it. You told me to. You said, go do that.
I said, no, tell him what just happened.
And I lied.
And that you punched me in the fucking thing. And you
figured
in the
it
face.
out.
And you said, no, I didn't. What the fuck are you talking about? And I watched you lie. And then I
didn't punch you, by the way. I'm sorry that I didn't.
Everything's his fault. I love this.
Across the face in a proper slap, but I was hitting you. It was not punching you. Babe, you're not punched.
Don't tell me what it feels like to be punched.
Did you just call him a bitch?
No, when you fucking have a close fist.
You got hit. I'm sorry I hit you like this, but I did not punch you. I did not fucking deck you. I fucking was hitting you. I don't know what the motion of my.
Another reason why argument sucks, by the way. You notice that she's just trying to establish that she's a good person and she's a victim and he's an asshole.
How could I possibly punch you? I'm just a weak little woman.
Yeah.
Right.
She doesn't care about the logic or the argument. All she's doing is jockeying for position in that.
Could you imagine sitting there in this room watching this go down and thinking to yourself, why is Johnny fucking Depp putting up with this horse shit?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I was hitting you.
How are your toes?
What am I supposed to do? Do this?
How are your toes?
I'm not sitting here bitching about it, am I? You are. That's the difference between me and you. You're a fucking baby.
Because you start physical fights? Because you start physical fights?
Is anybody else picturing her bitching out Aquaman right now?
Yeah, there you go.
I would get in my Ferrari at this time and lay 11s down the road and have somebody throw her out of the house and change the locks. This is ridiculous.
Yeah. And of course, every MGTOW in online is going to say, well, if Johnny Depp can't make it work, how do you have any? So, well, here's why. People would not, I don't think most people would call Johnny Depp a beta, but here you have him with some very beta, debate
He's
skills.
totally in her frame. He's
I wouldn't even say
totally
they're
referring
beta.
to her, right?
Yeah.
He's just
What would
sitting
you
there
say,
taking
Ryan?
basically like a punching bag here.
Yeah, those are Omega. Like I know it's all voxy here, and you guys hate this, but beta is comfort.
No.
Beta's not bad. That's Omega. That's ceding power, rolling over, playing dead, trying to argue with the frontal lobe. Meanwhile, the limbic brain is getting ready to start throwing pots and pans. That's Omega. Pure unattractive.
Yeah, that is okay. So people are going to say, and they've already said this, is that she's BPD. Yeah, but I bet you anything, if you were to play this for Andrew Tate, he would say, this is just a typical woman. This is female behavior. This isn't a BPD woman. All chicks are like this if you allow them to get to this point. And that's what I'm kind of glad we're going to talk about this a little bit, because it comes down to, what was it? Well, women, I think, Brian, you said this, women will be the women that you allow them to be, right?
Women will act as shitty as you let them.
Act as shitty as you let them, right? So what do you do in this situation?
You walk. There's nothing to negotiate. You get up and you walk out.
Especially if violence, because you're not going to win any violent encounter. Unless you hide the body, you're not coming out of this one. So just run.
So, but I think maybe the deeper question of this is, like, why is he doing this? Why is Johnny Depp what voted, I think, one of the sexiest men alive by People Magazine one of those years? Why is he putting up with this?
Where is this audio recording from, by the way? Is this
it's just new evidence that's been released, I guess. And what's funny is and remember, this case has been going on for almost 4 years now, where she's trying to say that, like, he beat her up, or he's the borderline rapist or whatever. And there was feminists coming out of the woodwork saying, oh, he's horrible, I can't believe it.
I think I heard somewhere he got kicked out of Disney, or he's not able to do any Pirates movie anymore.
Yeah, or something like that. I don't know exactly, but like, and then remember, this is the same broad that was with Elon Musk as well.
Yeah.
There's a connection right there. What do Elon Musk and Johnny Depp both have in commmen?
They're both
they'll put up
brothers.
with bullshit. They'll put up with bullshit like this. They'll put up with it. They won't walk on this. People say, well, Elon left. Well, he left, but probably because he was down to the last straw, down to the last resort.
Wait a second. Was this the same chick that he was on the ground about when he was with Neil Strauss doing that interview?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Jesus. Wow.
So maybe she is BPD.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe she drags him in. She probably has
what? Yeah, she hooked them and they fell for it. So even if you want to call her crazy and dismiss her, there's still onus on the guy here for letting her in.
Yeah.
There is a decision point where they screwed up, and that's what MGTOWs, if you guys want to do anything for yourself, focus on that part.
Yeah. Yeah. So the other thing I was going to say is we've got the story of Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez right now, and the truth is finally coming out. Like, Bezos was covering for her like crazy. He's basically made the richest woman on planet Earth a billionaires because of divorce laws. That's pretty much how it happened. And people will say, well, she's cashed out her stock in Amazon and she's doing good things with it. Well, yeah, that's to distract you from the real story, which is she's the richest woman on planet Earth because of divorce laws.
Yeah.
So, but why? How do we get to this point? Well, because a clever predatory woman in the form of Lauren Sanchez got in under his skin, said, hey, I'll fuck you better than this chick, got in there, and he got comfortable. And this is another blue pill beta man sending, nudes, sending texts to Lauren Sanchez. And then what does he say? He doesn't want to believe in the worst. Like, for the longest time, he said, well, those leaked IMs, those leaked texts were because of Saudi Arabian hackers. And the people in Saudi Arabia want to bring me down because he's the richest man alive, right? Because he's the guy that is the head of Amazon, and they were doing that. And Saudi Arabia is like, who the fuck is this guy? And the reason why is because it's not Lauren Sanchez. It's that she sent those texts to her brother. Her brother then sold them off to the highest bidder. And so now the brother is actually suing Jeff Bezos for saying this, for defamation of his character, for the brother's character.
I don't get it. As a billionaire, can't you hire a hitman? Like, what's the point of a billionaire if you can't do that?
Right. Well, you know,
Yeah.
again, why is he not living like why is he with this chick? And I know somebody in the chat's going to post this, so I'm just going to say it anyways.
What, she's
is
crazy too?
Well, that's probably true, but
Is everybody
also,
VPD?
no, somebody dug up, like I got this as a DM. Somebody dug this up and said that he's
We were actually
into,
talking
like,
about this
Latinas.
yesterday. We were actually talking about this yesterday on Rule Zero, right? You know, your net
A little
worth, your
bit.
net worth, right? And letting certain people into your inner circle is a bad idea. And it's like most of these guys are smart enough to know who to let into Tesla and Solar City and SpaceX and Amazon in their inner circle. So they run successful businesses. But that part of their brain that's able to, you know, decisively evaluate somebody's character just shuts down when it's like boobies, and they just like lose all rational like thought when it comes to I'll leave my wife and I'll start banging this chick that's run a bunch of other guys through the grinder too, right? Like, what the hell was Bezos thinking, right? They just lose it.
I think what's funny, yeah, of course they just lose it. But remember, Bezos has only been with his chick, with McKinsey, right? That we know of, okay. And I'm willing to believe that too, because
Well, he was a
knowing
big
what the
time
guy's
dork. I
about.
mean, when you see the early
Yeah.
pictures of him, I mean, he was a major dork.
Well, he'd been married to her before Amazon was a thing. Met her working, you know, doing his own, you know, trying.
Both of them actually
launch
got
the
better
business.
looking over time to a certain degree. I mean,
Yeah, I was
his
going to say,
SMV
she
went
actually,
up higher for sure.
She shaped up actually, and he shaped up too.
Yeah.
And
TRT will do that.
Yeah.
And so look, I mean, you look at his history. I think they were dating for 3 months before they got married. And so they got married. They've been married for 20, almost 30 years, I think, before all of this shit went down. And so you look at that and you look at the history of this guy. I'm willing to believe that he's never cheated on her. He's never, with the exception of maybe like Lauren Sanchez. But here's Lauren Sanchez who says, here's the richest man alive. I think I can get this. He's the first, like, she's a big game hunter, right? Her history is with mostly athletes. And so why does a guy like Jeff Bezos not see the writing on the wall? Why, like, if somebody came up to him and said, Jeff, man, do you think anybody did that? Do you think any guy in his inner circle said, Jeff, be cool, man, because she's going to take you for a ride. She's going to fuck you over and you have a lot to lose. And
Rollo, there's a business in this. We need to offer this as a high-end professional service to very successful entrepreneurs,
actually,
so they don't go and fuck themselves over and make stupid choices.
That's a really good idea. Like, offer that service.
Because he had to be complicit in his own deception. He couldn't have fathomed the idea that she screwed him because she wanted to win over Megan. She wanted to beat that bitch. He took it to mean, well, my TRT made me a man and now I'm getting all the poon. So yeah, he didn't want to believe that he was being taken to the cleaners.
Hey,
so
I'm going to answer
like the price his ego cost him. $36 billion for an ego.
Right. Yep. I'm going to answer a couple of I'm going to catch up on these real quick. Danny Garrido says, why does a girl stewardess, God, I hope so, I met in the plane, go to a dinner date with me, and 2 days after she says she wants to be friends because she is engaged? See the shit you get on my see the high quality shit you get on my show. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh man. She had dinner with you and she figured out that you're not what she thought that you were going to be to her, which is why she did a roundabout and said, I'm engaged, I shouldn't be doing this.
That's
what it boils down to.
It's a filibuster is what it is.
Yeah.
It's that's also, well, why would she do that? You know what's funny is, why are you asking that question?
Yes, that's the better question.
The real question is, why are you asking us that? Why is it that you don't see what's going on here?
Yeah.
She give me a field report. I could have seen where he got blown out, because that only came up once she stopped seeing those tingles.
Yeah. Well, but here's the other thing is that she...
And no, it's not free dinner like somebody just said in the chat.
No, I don't think so either. If she's going to... First of all, I'm not even sure she would even actually be engaged. But why are you asking this? Why do you not see what's going on? Well, the reason why is because you are expecting her to be upfront with you, expecting her to be logical, expecting her to be an honest agent. Now, if a man pretends to be a attorney and he's actually a sandwich artist at Subway, that's illegal in some countries to deceive. if you're a barista and you're not a doctor, and she has sex with you based on the idea that you are. And what's funny is
Where's that in Australia that they're doing
that's
that?
in Australia. They're trying to
Oh,
pass
yeah.
Actually, I shouldn't say just in Australia. They
There's
did
a few other
actually
places talking about it.
Tennessee. They tried to do this.
But I
State
mean,
of
she can
Tennessee.
show up, 30 pounds overweight, and that's not a crime.
And that's not a crime. Well, as long as you didn't bang her, you banged her and you go, oh my God, you're overweight.
If you get that far and she hides it, I'm impressed at those angles.
Yeah, exactly. But so we will actually, if you ever wanted to, if you ever doubted me when I say we live in a gynocentric social order, just look at the legislation we passed to make sure that men are honest agents when it comes to women's mating strategy. But women can be as deceptive as they want to be. And the problem that you're running, here's the real answer to your problem, Danny, is that you are expecting her to say what she means and means what she says. Like, oh, I don't, I'll go out with you. I'm actually interested in you. I'll be happy to go on a date with you. And then she's going to say, well, I'm actually engaged. So you're gonna say, well, and you know what Danny's gonna say, you know what DDJ's gonna say, you know what Jeff Bezos and the rest of these guys are gonna say. She's just a low quality woman. She just, oh man, there's just something wrong. She must be damaged. Somebody in her past must have really hurt her. It must have been one of those PUA guys.
PPD.
Yeah. It was a PUA. He used her and then ruined her for me.
Rollo, you're better at this stuff than me. Who was the psychologist that coined the idea that the mating strategies are adversarial, not team?
That is actually Tim Burkhead. At least the last one that I read would have been Tim Burkhead. He says mating strategies are
they're adversarial. They're built on
adversarial. No, he said something else too. I can't remember what it was, but they're basically said that same thing. He said women and men's mating strategies are adversarial.
And if you guys apply it to this stuff, you're going to find that as soon as you assume that she's not telling you the truth, a whole upfront truth, it makes your life so much easier. Mm-hmm. She may not have even been engaged. She just knows that those magic words get weak guys to bugger off.
Mm-hmm.
That's why girls have boyfriends all the time. Because if I say I have a boyfriend, the grocery store clerk / paralegal says, "Oh, sorry about that. I'll stop talking to you, milady." Tip the fedora and walk off. Yeah, she's not actually. She just knows that's how it works. Same as you saying, "Yeah, I'll stick around. I'll take care of the baby." Like, we're built on it. You just have to assume it.
Okay, Debbie Furtado says, is it a good idea to date 3s and 4s or 3 and 4 points below in SMV? Should you go slump busting? Should you go slump busting is really what he's asking here.
I would. I have. Honestly, if you're in a dry spell,
that's a dude named Debbie?
Davey.
Oh, Davey. Okay.
DAVI. He's a regular on here.
Davey. Oh, Davey. Yeah. Okay.
Because you've seen it. I'm sure, well, maybe Rich hasn't, but a dry spell messes with your head. So a slump buster may just be what you need. I wouldn't be.
There was, I don't know. For me, I think the jury's still out on this, but I think
give it 6 months, then ask.
for guys that are, let me go where's my magic 8 ball?
Shake the magic 8 ball.
Oh, wait, here we go. Here we go. Magic 8 ball.
Oh, you actually have one.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
What should he do? Should you go ask later?
That's a lot of guys' strategy.
It is a lot of, yeah. Find a suitcase full of money. That is my strategy. I think in some cases for guys who are like incels and they're like, oh, I'll be a virgin till the day I die. You know what? Come out here. I'll take you to the cat houses and Mound House. We'll get you laid. And maybe that helps you feel better about yourself. Maybe you're like, okay, now I got all this angst out. I can go and actually, change something about myself. There's something to be said about, maybe cheating it once or twice so that you can, move on and maybe that's the roadblock for you. The other thing is like, I've heard guys say this. And in fact, I've heard Mystery say this too, is like, practice your game on girls who you wouldn't necessarily practice it on.
Dude,
so if you're not
saved my dating life.
Yeah. So I see the wisdom in that. My only concern is that if you do that, the fat chicks will lock onto you, because if you are 1 to 2 steps above them in sexual market value, you are their ship has come in. And so they tend to invest really deeply and heavily in guys who like, oh, he's so hot. You could be a 6 and she's a 4, and the 4 is going to go, yeah, are we gonna get married now? Let me, you raw dog me, please.
Another skill guys need to learn, though, how to turn a girl down. So many guys just decide to act unattractive and hope that she bites the bullet and dumps him.
Right.
Maybe you need to learn how to say no to Debbie McCakes.
McCakes.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I could have come up with better if I had some time.
I got another one. Nick from Masculine Lifestyle says, how do some guys have game and looks and can't close the deal sexually while others can? What makes a girl want to sleep with one guy and not the other?
That's a broad question.
Yeah, I think most, here's the thing. I think particularly now in our brave new order, I think particularly in the age of Tinder, what makes women want to have sex with the guy is the guy looks hot. Simple as that. And that's probably what he's fishing for right now, which is, oh, go and tell us all about looks maxing and you need to debate face and LMS. No, I don't actually, because there's a lot more to attraction and arousal than just attraction or just the physical. Okay. There is more to it than that.
You can have
in the beginning. It's all about looks. Of course, if you're going to base your estimate on arousal and attraction off of Tinder, then yeah, of course, that's the way it's going to work. But I would say this is that, how do some guys have game and looks and can't close the deal? Well, I would say in those situations, the most obvious answer to me is incongruency. It's the guy who is really good looking and his personality is not what that woman expected of a guy that looks the way that he does. This is a common problem, I think, with old school PUAs used to say this is like, you can have a guy who is 6-pack abs and is really good looking and you're at the beach and some goofy PUA guy who's a little overweight comes and swoops on the girl and takes the girl away from the guy with the hot abs. Well, again, why would something like that happen? I have PUAs tell me that it's all game, and I don't believe that it's all game. And I have looks maxers tell me, well, it's all looks and it's just looks. No, it's a combination of the two, and it depends on the chick and it depends on the environment that you're in right then and there. You can have a guy who's really good looking and still maybe he's effeminate. Right? Maybe the look that he has tells a different story than when he opens his mouth. So there's a lot that goes on. The other common one I get is guys will say, well, what about the artist, or what about those emo guys? How come women like those emo guys and those musicians like who are, heroin thin?
Status makes her feel.
Status, social proof, pre-selection.
I'll tell you what I've heard a lot of.
Creative intelligence.
There's a radio show on here, Ryan. I'm not sure if you listen in the morning, but 99.9's got this segment about ghosting.
I don't listen to the radio.
Yeah, I only listen to it when I'm driving sometimes on short distances. But I mean, it just so happens to be around the time that I'm either doing errands or whatever. But there's always a segment that comes on, and there's always these guys that come on and like, I don't know why I got ghosted. So then the radio station calls a girl to find out, what happened. They offer a second date just to kind of get the story on the air. And more often than not, it's like a same night lay. So it's a hookup, he bangs, he thinks there's going to be a follow-up date. And she's like, yeah, I just didn't really, have the attraction for him in the long term. So I just kind of moved on, sort of thing. It's like, it happens, right? I mean, like, you can have the looks, you can have the Chad looks, you can close a deal the same night. But a lot of these, women on the ghosting segments are like, yeah, he was just too needy, just too needy, so he kind of turned me off.
Yeah. Talk about abundance, though, man. That's an awesome attitude to have.
Yeah.
He was wearing red socks. I'm like, fuck it.
Well, and here's another variable to throw in there is, remember, women are going to be attracted to guys who have different aspects and different characteristics at different times of their menstrual cycle as well.
Oh no, you're talking about ovulatory shift.
Oh yeah, we'll talk about that tomorrow.
Yeah, we got that tomorrow coming up.
Yeah, that's gonna be an interesting conversation. I have done my homework for this one. Of course, it's funny when do you guys remember when we did that takedown of that one purple pill coach guy? I can't remember his name.
Greg Adams.
No, not Greg Adams.
I love you guys. From
I love you guys. That guy,
Pinnacle of Man, yeah.
Pinnacle of Man. There it is. The purple pill Jesus Christ, right? The guy who, yeah.
That was what I started calling him. Jesus
so
Christ.
Rich, when I know Dr. Sean Smith's got his new hypergamy video out, which was really good. I'm not going to say it's not bad. I kind of expected most of what he was saying in there, but when we did that takedown video of Pinnacle of a Man, all of the stuff that I pretty much covered, all those notes are pretty much the same notes that I'm going to use on tomorrow's show, because I have covered this so many times, because the misconceptions simply don't want to go away. So we'll talk about that tomorrow. I got let's see, I've got this one right here. This just came in. Mr. Highway says, would you recommend only dating non-college educated women? Girls that go to college get ran through as part of the college experience, and they tend to think they are a lot smarter than they actually are.
Take on this.
Okay, go for it.
Dude, girls with high school jobs get run through too, but whatever.
There's okay, so in the chapter that I put out on red flags, I put an area in there about competing with you. And this is something that had dawned on me very, very recently, as a matter of my own experiences and a lot of the guys that I've coached. But if you have a woman that thinks that she's smarter than you, or that she tries to compete with you, or sends signals that she's better than you, she doesn't respect you. She doesn't value you. So it doesn't matter if she has a college degree or 3 of them framed in mahogany on her wall. If I'm going to be with her, she's going to be in my frame. There's going to be no indication whatsoever that she thinks that she's smarter than me, right? Because she's just not going to respect me. Why would I waste my time?
Right. I think a lot gets made more now by guys than women when it comes to hookup culture. I don't necessarily believe in the idea of hookup culture. I think it's overblown. I think even back in the day, back in the early 2000, or about 2012, I think, like the early teens, somewhere around there, there was a lot of women who were saying, "Oh my God, my daughter's going to go off to college and she's going to be thrown and flung into this hookup culture that's going on in college." And then we see research that says that this generation of men and women don't have sex in anything like the numbers of previous generations. So I don't know how much I really believe that college is just one big giant orgy. Don't base I think a lot of guys base their judgment on what's going on in college circles on the porn that they're watching. Well, look at these guys. They're at the Bachelorette. But bachelorette porn, and now they're giving blowjobs to random male strippers. It's like, yeah, that works in porn, but that's not necessarily the reality of what's going on. So there's that. But
tell me, guys aren't really buying this crap.
They are buying this crap. I've had at least 3 different guys. One of them is like, why is interracial cuckoldry porn so popular right now, Rollo? I can't believe this is where we are now. And I'm like,
oh, do I have to revisit the video games cause school shootings thing now? Like, is TV really actually making people make decisions?
Yeah, I mean, and the other thing is, it's easy.
Dragons caused all kinds of developmental issues. That
too, or it's easy to go. If you go and you look at like Pornhub's blog, and I don't mean like the porn side of things, you look at their statistical blogs where they actually write about what they're the best. Oddly enough, a pornography site is the best resource for statistics on, well, certainly the American masturbatory habits of the population in the
worldwide,
United States, worldwide too. Yeah.
It's based on their choices. I mean, it's not volunteer.
When people tell me or give me grief about my estimation of the old order versus the new order, that's part of the new order data set that I've been talking about. Is we have this new information that sort of shines a sometimes unflattering light on, well, both men and women in this case too. So what would I say? Girls that go to college get ran through, blah, blah, blah.
Is that why he doesn't want to date college girls? Because he wants a more pure one?
Well, I've had guys tell me that. I want a wholesome woman. Or they'll get really upset when they date, and maybe this is like an autistic thing or a Spurg thing or whatever.
Maybe.
But maybe, yeah. They'll date some girl who plays up to what they think that guy's expectations are, and the expectations are of a wholesome woman, right?
They'll
say, I don't. Well, yeah, Sun Hat Goddess is a good example of that. But the other example is guy or like women who see this and they, for whatever reason, maybe they genuinely were attracted to the guy in the beginning and then they lost attraction for him. But during the part where they were attracted to him, they will try to play the role that they think that this guy is expecting of them. And that is to be the wholesome Sun Hat Goddess, to be this. And then once that attraction fails, now she's a slut. Now she's the girl that she wasn't what she said she was. Are all women like this? She went to college and got run through while she was there. And so you come up with these rationales as to why these girls, like I keep telling guys this all the fucking time, and you guys need to get it in your head, is like, there's no such thing as a quality woman. Okay, that is a fantasy that's in your head. That's an idealization. Are there some women who are better? Are there some women who are better, have better sexual market value than others? Yes. Are there women who you are better be a better pair with? Sure, there are. Like, I would say my wife is a quality woman. She's great, but I don't talk about those things because I don't see her as a quote unquote quality woman. Quality woman is an idealization. It's you trying to fit that woman into that mold of what your wholesome woman is and what you expect from the ideal wife. It's almost trying to reconcile the Madonna whore complex, right? The perfect woman, the quality woman is the woman who is a good mother for your kids, and she fucks you like Jenna Jameson in the bedroom or the bathroom. Man.
On the way to the bathroom.
That's disgusting. Only missionary, only with our eyes closed so we don't see naughty bits. That's the way God intended, damn it.
So, I mean, and we'll close out here in just a second. I want to get to our announcements and stuff too, but I do want to say this before we go is when it comes to appealing to women's reason, and maybe call me jaded right now, but I also apply this to when I'm talking to women online. Like I catch myself doing this as well. So when women come to me and they say, Rollo, I agree with everything you say in your book. It's great. What about this? And they want to have these rational conversations, these reasonable conversations about points in my book. Or they'll say, I agree with everything you say about the alpha widows. I agree with everything you say about, modern feminism. I agree with all this stuff. And then I'll say something like I said earlier. I said, if you were born after 1965, there's some part of feminist ideology that has molded the way that you think about men and women and life in general and politics and everything else. And then they lose their shit. And then we go from this reasonable, rational. I want to believe that women could be rational. Right? I want to believe that they could be reasonable. And so I'm willing to engage with them. And then it always ends the same way. And I know Rich does this too. So when remember Rich, when you said, I'm going to hold your feet to the fire, Rich. Remember when you remember when part of your shtick was, my brothers from another mother and my rational sisters. Why did you stop calling them rational sisters, Rich?
I started to realize that they did not exist.
And why is that? What contributed to that assumption?
Well, when you try to
experience
to read them and you're like, okay, this is not working. I know it works with dudes. I know it works when they're stuck on something, but it doesn't work. Okay, we'll just remove that completely from the conversation, from the language. And that pissed a few people off, but I don't care.
Yeah, I know women get really upset about that too, because I think that women want to believe that they can engage in these, very rational, reasonable debates. Yeah. It's not this I think that people kind of take me the wrong way when I say, well, women are primarily emotional. I'm not saying that women can't be smart. I'm not saying that women can't be coders. I'm not saying that women can't understand philosophy. I think that they can. I think that if you teach a woman to do something, or if you teach her to think in some certain way, you can do the same thing with men. It's a human thing, right? Their natural proclivity is not to be reasonable. Their natural proclivity, like the guy who came in first was saying, oh, women are not logical. Well, not naturally. They can get to that logic. They can be taught those things. It's the natural proclivity thing. And what I've explained it this way is like when guys come out of when a little boy comes out of the womb, he has this sort of natural ability to throw a rock or throw a ball. And he puts his shoulder into it and he knows how to, he's much more accurate. And the reason for that is because men were the hunters and women were the gatherers. And so it's part of our natural evolved firmware for a man to be able to do that. we have better spatial abilities. We have better locational abilities. Although women will say, well, men don't ask for directions. Well, men actually know where they understand directions, and they understand where they're at.
Yeah.
With spatial awareness, that's better. Women have better capacity for communication. They have a better capacity for what was it? What else?
Nagging.
Well, nagging, but that's part of it. That is part of the thing. There are natural proclivities that women have. One of those is not rational, reasonable. That's not their first priority. The first priority is emotion. That doesn't mean that reason and rationality doesn't exist. It's there, but they're not going to make emotional decisions based on whatever the hell that the rational, reasonable mind says. That comes later. For men, it's rational, reasonable, and then emotional. How did I feel about that?
And Rollo, can we separate in this instance logical from objective? Because I think a lot of guys assume logical means objective, and it doesn't. Because all you need is one faulty premise, and you could have airtight logic on a totally wrong thing. I can give tons of examples of that, and that's the thing. People aren't designed for objectivity. Cannot remember the author. You're going to have to help me on this one again, but they basically have come to the conclusion over some various bits of research that we aren't designed to understand the objective nature of the world around us. We're just not hardwired for it. Now, it kind of makes you wonder then, so why do we have logic and rationale if we don't actually need it and we're not wired for it? Turns out, the best theory we got right now is we use those not to understand the world, but to better persuade people to see things from our emotional decision-making process. So when you think about girls not being logical, they're not, because they don't need to be. That's not a tool they need. Guys need it, because we have to convince the dudes coming hunting with us that our spear throwing technique is better. So we have to be eloquent. We have to be charismatic. You have to put all this stuff together. Girls don't need that, because at the end of the day, sperm is cheap and eggs are expensive. So they're always going to be the decider in any sexual encounter. So they don't have to be logical. They just have to say yes or no.
Right. And
What's
I'm
your
looking
spear
at
game like, Ryan?
Oh, it's brutal. I throw like a girl.
I'm looking at Connor Kook, whatever.
Oh, he's that guy that wanted to debate me, and I said I was hiding. I'm like, I don't know who the fuck you are.
Well, and here's the thing.
Who are you?
Connor, I realize you're enamored with Nietzsche and all this good stuff too. I'm gonna actually.
Is he like Ebola?
I'm gonna put a link in the description later on. I got to go dig it up, but there's a really good study about how human beings did exactly what you're saying, Ryan. How human beings did not evolve to really understand objective reality, and why it was in our evolutionary best interests not to have that, because of emotional investment, emotional devastation. It really, the reason I looked this up, or I came across this, is because I was doing some studies for the war brides dynamic. Why is it that women can get over guys easier?
That's why that was the post that got me down the rabbit hole finding it too.
yeah, exactly. I'll throw that out there. There's actually studies, and again, this is all theoretical too. So I mean, this is just as theoretical as Ebola or whatever it is you're so enamored with right now. So I get you. But Mike Lift says, Rollo, I'm reading TRM and it's a great book so far. Every guy should read it. You break it all down beautifully. It's the men's manual. Thank you. You are welcome, Mike Lift. Thank you very much for that $5. So I gotta close out right now because the Super Bowl is about to go on. And actually, I'm wondering if that's why we have so many. We actually cleared 1,000 live views today. That's great.
Pre-show.
That's pretty good.
The pregame show, the pre-show just sucked dick. So
yeah. Well, here's the thing: if you guys are watching, if you're watching the Super Bowl, watch for what is it, Katie Sowers. If San Francisco wins today, you will see them just pump her up. She is the first female offensive coordinator assistant, and I'll guarantee you that you will see this get pushed up. What's hers? It says here.
It was last year's Super Bowl. Didn't they have a tampon ad in the middle? Or was
all of the commercials for the Super Bowl will be just highly gender war material. Everything's going to be female narrative. It always is.
You have a lot of material tomorrow, right?
And you schlubs are gonna keep watching.
I have done. I will. I don't know if I'm going to do it this year. I have done a post like Super Bowl wrap up for like probably 4 or 5 years on my blog posts every time this comes out, and I go through the commercials and I kind of break them down a little bit. But it became so monotonous. I'm like, wow, why am I going to do this? Because it happens so much. Herza says, "Sup guys? Any advice on how to get over a crush on a girl? I have a crush on this girl at work, and I feel it's inappropriate."
Scarcity
Yes,
mindset.
Who's your second choice in girl? Answer that question and you'll solve your problem.
Yeah, exactly. You need.
And I guarantee you his answer is nobody, and that's why he has the problem.
Here's my pithy end of show
She's
answer
my
for
one
you.
eyes.
Spin more
More
plates.
plates.
Yes,
Say it with us. Spin.
That will work
more
best for you,
plates.
my friend. So guys, are we going to talk about the event? Do we want to talk about the event?
Yeah, we talked about it yesterday. Kick it off.
Yeah, we did. We can drop that a little bit here. We're going to be doing an event about the middle of April. Should we say dates, or because I'm not going to say where it is, but
Yeah, we'll give them the exact dates when
okay.
they want to get in, but it's for community members only.
Yeah, it's going to be if you want to get in, we're going to be doing a live event. Ryan, are you in? Are you confirmed now?
As far as I can tell.
Okay.
Yeah, I
So
mean that's a yes.
Yes, of course. Okay, so Ryan's going to be there. Rich is going to be there. I'm going to be there. I think maybe John. So it might be a Rule Zero thing, but we're going to be calling it Rule Zero Live.
Like a live, yeah.
And it's just going to be like for this one, it's just going to be a meetup. If you have questions about it, you can get in touch with any of us, and we'll lock you in. We're still kind of working out the details on how what we're going to charge and where it's going to be, and all this other stuff. But we have set dates. And we are definitely going to do it this year. It's not going to be a convention. It's just going to be a meetup at this stage. So if you're in Rich, your private community, is that?
Yeah, here, I'll just pop the link here in the chat. But if you want to join my private community, you'll get all the details there. We've got hundreds of guys in there right now, and they're doing the work. So, the show yesterday was about really, surround yourself with excellence. So why wouldn't you? I know, and I don't want to just, pitch mine. I know both of you guys have Patreon, so join whoever it is that you like to support, and you want to get in the inner circle and get the premium content behind the paywall, and you'll get the details for the meetup, the live, whatever it is that we're going to call it. We're just really gauging interest right now. I posted in my community yesterday, and it looks like we got about 20 guys that are serious about coming out for that. So I figure we cap it somewhere like around 50-60 to keep it intimate.
That sounds good.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I have a feeling it's going to be very popular. So, and it will be over a weekend, so it'll be something.
There's my link there.
Yeah, it'll be something.
Complimentary red hats. Make something great again.
Make
free Xanax for everybody.
Yeah,
Television
make
appearance.
Xanax great again. That's what it will be. So,
green aprons and red hats.
if you want the link for the event, let me see if I can grab this. There you go. That's the link for the event. Go ahead, and I just put it up front there so you guys can see where it is. That's the starting point. I think all of us will probably have our own little portals or something like that at some point. So look for that coming up soon. Again, I'm going to be on with Susan Vinker on the 10th of February. I'm just going on her podcast, and that'll be recorded. So it's something to look forward to. But the thing you should be looking forward to is
tomorrow night.
The death cage or the death match, steel cage death match of hypergamy with
those hypergamy exists, the clinical perspective versus the Godfather perspective. And here's the thing, guys, like don't tune in there and get into like, well, Rollo destroyed him. It's like destroyed. It's not a fatal kill or any of that nonsense. Like this is gonna be like, I'll probably end up moderating most of the conversation, maybe chiming in from time to time, but it's really gonna be Rollo's perspective on hypergamy versus Sean's clinical perspective.
And so here's
Can't you just hit Dr. Glover with like a lawn chair? Just once.
Dr. Glover's out.
He's not going to come, but he's not able to make it. So
it sucks.
So yeah. So So when people say, well, why won't you go and debate Pat Stedman? Well, first off, I've never been given a topic to debate. But if I were to debate Pat Stedman, this would be the topic. I would talk about exactly what I'm going to now. So this should be an example for all of you purple pill hacks, how to do an actual debate and how to have a formal, good, nature. But I'm not going to agree with everything he says. He's not going to agree with everything I say.
Well, you guys
so it will give you something,
debate, aren't you?
Yeah. Well,
that's funny.
As close as you can get on YouTube, I suppose.
Well, that's the thing. We've had a discussion on this, how it went from classical debate where it's two people trying to arrive at a solution to something to like a modern debate where it's two people trying to appeal to an audience, to postmodern debate where it's essentially just slamming each other so we can establish who's got the bigger dick. And now we're at like a postmodern debate where the followings, like all those things that happen because of the arguments already solved the debate, and there's almost no need for it anymore. So it'd be kind of neat to see you back in that old Christopher Hitchens kind of actually discovering the truth among two intelligent people. It's going to be cool.
Right. I mean, people will pay top dollar for a TED talk, or they'll pay top dollar for to go see Peterson at, some speaking hall or something like that. Like, here you get this really high quality, back and forth for next to nothing. I wanted to throw this out there before we leave. Baba Booey says, Marty Hazelton said that female ovulation shifts do not overlap. Does this mean that social conditioning is the primary reason for their shift in behavior? I don't know exactly what you're talking about, but I will look it up and I will answer that question tomorrow, because I know we're going to talk about ovulatory shift tomorrow. And what are, what is the...
You mean not overlap, like they don't sync up if you put chicks in a room for too long?
That's what I was saying. That's what I thought he was talking about here. And we already know that. That's been that's kind of been debunked. The idea that women's ovulatory cycles will sync up if you
the whole text on our ship figured that out.
No. But why was it so unpopular an idea? Well, because what that would mean is like all these women will go into estrus so that they can breed with the alpha male, and that goes back to the idea that, hey, evolution might be real, and that we might have descended from primates of some sort. So that's why it was such a big thing. But I'll tell you what, Bobby Booey, I will definitely get on your stuff. I missed a few super chats here. YOLO, go ahead and take. I have them here. I'll answer you on email. But it's been pretty good. So, all right, guys, this has been fun. And gosh, where are we gonna? You and I, Rich, will be tomorrow. At what time are we doing it? 8:30.
8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I'll send you the link a couple of minutes before, and we'll wrap before we go live. 8
p.m. Eastern tomorrow, and then I will be doing another Wednesday show. I might have a pretty decent guest for that one as well. I'll leave that in limbo for you guys. And then, of course, we're always on Rule Zero Saturdays at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time on one of our channels, somebody's channels. I don't think I'm hosting. Brian, I think you're hosting this time. You're up next.
Awesome. That's good.
So
I was wondering. I can tell when I'm up to host because my watch numbers have this big drop out of nowhere. I'm like,
all right, guys, this has been fun. I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.
See y'all.